good day, ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed viewers, subscribers, and followers, and welcome to another wonderful and exciting edition of Let's Talk with Asset Litigation. I remain your host, yours truly, David Onu Njoko, and I'll be taking you today on a smooth ride on knowing your rights and then doing the right things, legally speaking. And today, just as always, we'll be having another wonderful and interesting topic. It is just 48 hours to the general elections. Today, we're not going to be talking about elections, but it's just to sensitize you that it is your civic responsibility to exercise your franchise by going out to vote on the day of election, which is just 48 hours away from today. But today we'll be discussing a wonderful and interesting topic, which is citizens' rights to self-defense and gun licensing in Nigeria. I repeat that, citizens' rights to self-defense and gun licensing in Nigeria. It was Thomas Hobbes that said that life in the state of nature was short, nasty, poor, brutish. This life in the state of nature was one that was not comforting because survival of the fittest was the norm, and then people were not secured as to the protection of their lives and then their properties, because a strong man somewhere can just come and then take your life or take your property, and then you will not have any right to resist him because you're not strong enough. It is for this reason, so as to prevent this very chaotic situation in the state of nature, that brought about laws and regulations. And it is these laws and regulations that we are going to be talking about today, and vis-a-vis the right to self-defense and gun licensing in Nigeria. But as usual, we'll begin with a very short story. In a community in north-central Nigeria, it has experienced incessant attack by armed men, leaving so many persons dead, bloodbath and wanton killings in the community, which necessitated the paramount ruler or the chief of that community to make a public pronouncement that all men who have their arms should endeavor to carry it and bear it wherever they go, whether to the farm or to the bush or to the stream. And then if you don't have your arm, you should better go and buy a firearm to protect yourself, because according to him, their ancestors were great warriors, hunters, and as such, they shouldn't be afraid of armed invaders. Now, I have a friend from this same community, one Mr. Kwase, who has now asked me to know if this very public pronouncement by this chief is right in law. And that is what the story we are going to be using in explaining this topic, citizens' rights to self-defense and gun licensing in Nigeria. But first of all, we have to understand what is self-defense. Now, self-defense simply means the act of defending oneself. It is the use of reasonable, the word reasonable and commensurate. I will explain this. Now, self-defense simply means the right to defend oneself and the right to use reasonable and commensurate measure of force in protecting yourself. What this means is that if someone comes to you wanting to injure you using a stick, then self-defense simply means that you should equally use something that is of commensurate or equal measure of force to resist that force or threat that is about to happen to you. That is to say, if someone is coming against you with a stick, then it is proper if you use another stick to go against that person so as to prevent that harm happening to yourself. Or if the person is coming against you with a rod, then it is proper to use an equal measure of force, either a rod or a stick, to prevent that harm from happening to you. But when someone is coming against you with a stick and then you are having a gun and then you shoot at that person, will it amount to equal and commensurate level of force to resist that harm coming to you? This is what we are going to be discussing, because the law does not sanction the latter but sanctions the former. What I mean is that the law does not sanction you using gun in place where your attack against you is that of a stick or a rod, and then the law does, but the law sanctions when you use equal measure of force, which is a rod for a rod or a stick for a stick. Now, the court has defined self-defense in different cases, but we are not here to discuss the different dynamism in the definition. But what we are here to explain to ourselves and understand is that self-defense simply means the defending of oneself from harm using equal and commensurate force to prevent such harm from happening to you. Now, the scope of self-defense goes beyond prevention of one's life, protection of one's life rather. It also goes to protection of one's property and then the life of one's loved ones or family members. What this simply means is that if you have a property and the property is under attack, let's say assassins, people that want to come burn down your property, and they are there with their petrol bombs and with their petrol and matches, and they want to lit your house. You don't just fold your hands and say, because I have no petrol beside me to pour them and then lit the fire against them, I should let them burn down my house. The law says you have a right to self-defense. At this point, it is not self-defense to your life, threat to your life, but threats to your property, because the paramount responsibility of every government is the protection of life and property. So always, for when it comes to protection, life comes and then property follows it. So they are like cement twins. They are inseparable, and that is what the law defines when it talks about rights to self-defense. So you can defend yourself and also you can defend your property. You can equally defend your loved ones. That is to say, if someone is under your care or someone is dependent on you, under your custody, and then the person is about encountering a danger that is to his life or to her life, it behoves on you as the guardian or the custodian to ensure that that harm does not happen. And if you use any commensurate force or pressure that is about to be applied to that person to prevent that threat of harm, then it is called self-defense. Also, we are now going to discuss gun ownership and licensing in Nigeria. What this means is that there is, in our society today, there is a strong link between insecurity, self-defense, and gun licensing. I repeat this. There is a strong link in Nigerian society today, just like in the community I explained earlier in North Central Nigeria. There is a strong link between insecurity, self-defense, and gun licensing. Because where there is no threat to life, where there is no attack, where there is no incessant and wanton killing, bloodbath, then there will be no need for anyone to be afraid of threats to life, to him or herself. So because life will be easy and everybody will live in peace, where there is no acrimony, where there is no anarchy, where there is no chaos, where there is no violence. So it is violence that breeds fear, and this fear now necessitates or warrants the need to protect oneself from this harm. So we understand that in Nigeria, just as the United Nations published in its 2016 report, Nigeria houses over 70% of proliferated arms. But by this we mean Nigeria has 70% of unlicensed illegal firearms in circulation in the West African sub-region. This shows that there is a whole lot of insecurity that may be warranted by the use or by the possession of these proliferated and illegal arms in the hands of non-state actors. By non-state actors, we mean in the hands of private individuals and militia groups who are not licensed to bear these arms. And it is because of this that has necessitated a fear in so many persons, especially communities, communities in the Middle Belt area, and equally in virtually every region of Nigeria, to agitate for gun ownership and licensing in Nigeria. But before that, we have to understand that for you to own guns in Nigeria, there are certain assurances that you have to prove to the government for them to allow you to own arms. Number one, you must give the assurance that that firearm is to be kept in a safe and secured place. Now, for the people of the community in the North Central region, which we use as our case study today, everybody that has a gun there is to give assurance to the government that that gun or those firearms will be kept in safe custody by them. Number two, they must give that assurance to the government that they will not allow any other person to be in possession of those firearms. Number three is that they must produce the firearms together with its license whenever demanded by police officer. And then number four is that they must give notification of the license to the licensing authority if the firearm is lost or misplaced or destroyed or stolen. They are also going to give notification to the licensing authority whenever the license holder is to relocate from his current place of residence. He has to notify the government that gave him the license to bear those arms. Now, if all this cumulatively is not in existence, if all these assurances cannot be given by a person who intends to purchase firearms for the protection of himself, which is self-defense, then the government will not grant such application for gun licensing. Also, we are not then going to discuss insecurity and citizens agitation for gun ownership in Nigeria. Just as we earlier highlighted, under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, especially Section 14, subsection 2, paragraph B, it is provided that the primary responsibility of every government in Nigeria is the protection of life and property. That is to say, it is paramount upon the government and it is primary on their responsibility of government to ensure that lives and properties are protected. But what happens when these lives and properties are no longer secured, or when the assurances can no longer be given that government will be able to protect the lives of its citizens and then their own properties also? It gives room for what we call self-help in law, and it is in the avoidance of this self-help that is why our constitution and our various legislations have made provision for self-defense and then gun licensing. Because if you allow everybody to carry gun and carry arms to protect himself, nobody will be able to regulate the usage of these very firearms. Just as we have earlier highlighted, the assurances that one who wishes to apply for firearms ownership must give those assurances to the federal government or to whosoever authority that he is to get the license from, to ensure that he can be given, before he can be given such license. Now, we should also remember that as a community, we hold our community, we owe a duty to our community to ensure that our society is safe. Now, by that, it simply means that we should be our neighbor's keeper or brother's keeper. Just as they say in this common Nigerian slogan, if you see something, say something, because security is every man's business. And it is in this very light that we are bringing this topic to you, which is self-defense, citizens' right to self-defense, and gun licensing in Nigeria. Now, having established the assurances one who intends to own arms in Nigeria, posing by the rights of who is agitating for his right to self-defense as a result of imposing danger that he's about to encounter. We will now go to the caliber of firearms or guns. When I say we use the word firearms and guns interchangeably because they remain the same thing. Now we talk about the caliber of firearms or guns that can be licensed and who is to license these firearms or guns. Now, the caliber of guns, first of all, they have to understand what is the definition of firearms or guns. Now, Section 2 of the Firearms Act, that is a primary law that regulates issuance of gun licensing and then firearms in Nigeria. The Firearms Act, Section 2 of the Firearms Act defines firearm to mean any lighter barrel weapon of any description from which any shot, bullet, or other missile can be discharged. That means any device for which you can discharge a missile, okay, amounts to being a firearm, which is to be licensed for you to have possession. Now, this possession, licensing and possession, we are talking about private individuals owning guns, okay, and then they have to license this gun. We don't mean that police officers will have to license their guns before they use it, because those guns are already government property. They are for public use and not individually owned by those police officers, and that is why they submit them after the end or close of their day's duty. So we talk about caliber of firearms that is to be approved by different authorities. Now it is worthy to note that there are only 3 authorities in Nigeria that can grant you license to use of firearms. Number 1 is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Then secondly is the Inspector General of Police, and thirdly is the Commissioner of Police of the various police commands all over the Federation, having gotten the consent from their respective state governors. That is to say, it is only the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that can issue you gun license, or the Inspector General of Police of the Federation that can issue you gun license, or the Commissioner of Police in consultation with the state governor that can issue you gun license. That is to say, in that our very beautiful small community in north central Nigeria that is under attack, and which the paramount ruler has asked that these people should bear arms. The paramount ruler doesn't have the capacity to issue such pronouncements to license his people to bear arms, because he's neither the president, he's not the Inspector General of Police, neither is he the Commissioner of Police. So my dear friend Kwesi, you should know this now, that your paramount ruler does not have the authority to issue such decree that you should bear arms in your community to protect yourself or exercise your right to self-defense. Now, having established the different authorities that can issue you gun license, it is important to know the caliber of or grade of guns or ammunition or firearms that can be issued by these various authorities. So we'll talk about the president first. The president has the authority to, these are the classes of ammunition that only the president can give license to. Number 1 is artilleries. Number 2 is bombs and grenades. Number 3 is apparatus for the discharge of any offensive or explosive or gas diffusing projectiles. Number 4 is rocket weapons. Number 5 is machine guns and machine pistols. Number 6, military rifles, namely caliber 7.62 mm, 9 millimeters, 300 inches, and 303 inches ammunitions, and also revolvers and pistols, whether rifled or unrifled, including flintlock pistols and cap pistols. Now, this category of ammunitions we have mentioned, they are high-grade ammunitions. When you may be surprised to hear, where did we discuss about AK-47 and AK-49? Where did they come under? The AK-47s and AK-49 come under military rifles, because that is the approved and sanctioned weapons to be used by the Nigerian military. So no one is allowed to license the issuance of military rifles of AK-47 and AK-49 or any other higher caliber of weapon except the president. Little wonder, sometime in 2018, precisely August 13th, the governor of Benue State, Chief Sam Otom, wrote to the president to ask and seek for permission for the use and licensing of firearms, high caliber firearms, as high as AK-47 and AK-49 for indigents of Benue State, for the protection of themselves against marauding herders or killer herders. But the president declined such offer. Reason being that it is only the president that can grant such permission for the use and licensing of such firearms. Now, we go to the second category, the categories of guns or ammunition that can be issued, license can be issued by the Inspector General of Police. They include, number 1, shotguns, other than all those other ammunitions or caliber of ammunition that we have mentioned that the president can issue the license. That means the machine guns, the artillery, the bombs, the grenade, the military rifles, whether 9.23 millimeters or 300 inches or 303 inches guns, hand pistols and all that is only the president. So any other thing aside that is a shotgun, then the Inspector General of Police can issue the license. Now we go to the last, which is the caliber of guns that license can be issued by the Commissioner of Police of various police commands across the 36 states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and upon consent by the Governor of each state of the Federation. They include Dane guns, what we call the hunter's gun. They include the flintlock guns, or unrifled muzzle loading. That means those guns that we use gunpowder to load instead of the bullets, and then cap guns. Now, the double barrel, as we usually know it, they fall under the cap guns, and as such, it is only the Commissioner of Police, upon directive by the state governor, that can issue such license. And I need to explain this. The Commissioner of Police is not bound. Okay, it's not under compulsion that whenever the governor gives the go-ahead order that he should issue the license, and he will go ahead and issue the license to anybody, because the Commissioner of Police will only have to resort to the governor on an advisory capacity, not as a compulsory capacity to issue or mandatory capacity to issue such license. Now we'll go to the next content of our discussion today, which is eligibility for gun licensing in Nigeria. That means for you to be qualified to own guns in Nigeria, or to be issued license in Nigeria for the protection of self or property or loved ones under the category of what we call self-defense, or under the heading of what we call self-defense. For you to be eligible, number one, you must be up to the age of 17. Number two, you must have medical report that shows that you have good eyesight. Number three, you must have medical fitness report that shows that you are fit physically and also in the mind. Number four, you must be a person you must not be a person with intemperate habits. Okay, that is, you must not be short-tempered, or what we call in our local parlance, hot-tempered person. Then you must not be a convict 5 years preceding the date of the application. That means 5 years to the date you applied, you must not have been convicted for any offense, not even the minutest of offense, the smallest of offense. You must not have been convicted for that reason. Now, the procedure for obtaining gun license in Nigeria, there are two. It's either you go by manual application or you go by the online application. The beauty of it is that Nigeria is now going automated with respect to issuance of gun license, and that is very good because it's going to help us to have a good database of how many persons have licensed guns in Nigeria, so that when you see one within your community brandishing a double barrel rifle or a cap gun, and then his name is not in the database of gun persons that have been licensed to carry arms, then you know that that person is a potential criminal or allegedly a criminal. Now, we'll first of all look at the online registration for procedure for obtaining gun licensing in Nigeria. Number one, you have to log into the Nigerian Police Force official website, which is www.npf.gov.ng. Then you have to click at the firearm license link you'll find on the platform. Then after that, you click on new user. That is new user for firearms. And when that pops, when you click on that, what will pop up is the application form, which you have to fill, and then they will list for you other documents which you have to submit, which include the medical report of your eyesight, your mental health, and your physical body, and then some other documents which I will outline to you later when we get to the manual application. Then also you have to print out the information submitted, and then take the print out to the Police Intelligence Inspection Department, Firearms Intelligence Inspection Department, FIID. You have to take it to them physically, and then they will give you within 5 working days to get back to you after looking at your credential whether to approve or decline your application for gun license. Now, the procedure for manual application includes you going to the office of the Commissioner of Police or to the Inspector General of Police for obtaining a form for gun license. And then when you fill the form, you accompany the filled form or submit the filled form with the following documents: national identity card, copy of proof of address, proof of age or sworn affidavit before a magistrate or notary public, police clearance certificates, medical report of mental health status of applicant, medical report of physical fitness of applicant, medical report of good eyesight of applicant, and then 4 passport size photographs. You have to submit all these alongside with the application form to the Department of Firearms in the office of the Commissioner of Police of the various states, or at the police headquarters in Abuja with respect to the Inspector General of Police. And when you do that, the police will give you within 2 weeks to get back to you through the official email you've dropped with them. Then the feedback will be whether they have approved or declined your application. Now, after saying this, now you have to know how to renew your gun license. It is interesting to note that licensed guns expires at 31st of December each year. So irrespective of when you are issued the license, 31st of December each year, that license expires. That means you have to renew it by on or before 1st of January of the following year. And failure to renew your license within a month after its expiration may lead to revocation of your license and then the confiscation of that particular rifle you're holding. So I hope you are able to be educated today and you are enlightened to the extent of gun ownership and self-defense in Nigeria. Number one, you must understand that if you have to exercise your right of self-defense, it must be with commensurate force. That is to say, if someone is coming against you with a stick, you don't have to use your gun because it is licensed and then kill the person or inflict bodily harm, because that may amount to manslaughter. And also you have been able to be educated today that your guns and you have to be licensed either by the Commissioner of Police, Inspector General of Police, or the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And then you have been educated on the caliber of guns or categories of guns that can be approved by these different authorities that has the power to issue out license. So just as my friend Kwesi, I will advise you, don't, because of the pressure or societal pressure or insecurity within your society, to go about carrying or brandishing firearms, because that will amount to criminal acts. And you know, a possession of firearms amounts to a crime in Nigeria under the Firearms Act, and it comes with a punishment of 21 years imprisonment. So just like we see, don't go about brandishing your firearms. Even though you have one, submit it to the armory, the National Armory, which is a department of the Nigerian Police Force at the Nigerian Police Force headquarters. Or you can go to the nearest police station and submit your unlicensed firearms to the divisional police officer. We would like to hear from you. Get your feedback, your comment, and your questions. You can do that by leaving your comments, feedbacks, and questions at the comment section of your streaming platform. Until we see again from us here in All Asset Litigation, it is a wrap. I will say thank you and God bless you. Remember to vote, because your votes count. And also remember, as a parting shot, don't go to your polling unit on the date of election and then sell your vote or procure votes, permanent voters card, or incite violence, as all these constitute electoral offenses for which the minimum jail sentence you can get is 12 months imprisonment. Remember also, you're not supposed to go to the polling unit and then at the queue you'll be discussing your favorite candidate, or politicking, or campaigning, or rallying for your candidate, or even shouting the slogan of your political party, or wearing brandishing the t-shirts, face cap, handband, or wristband of your political party, your candidate, or political affiliations or organizations that are affiliated to a political party or a candidate. Because if you do this, it all amounts to electoral violence, and then the minimum term of imprisonment, it's 12 months in prison, and then you won't want to let that happen to you. Do the right thing, vote right, and vote